What is up? Man, you guys got me with your dances today. Got me a little bit. I was like, ooh.
Doing things and stuff, brother.
Looking good. Looking good. Oh, the hat's out. The hat's out. So glad to see you guys. Sorry I missed you Friday. I saw that my replacement filled in for me. Stick McGee Pajamas. One of my good friends. Now I was buried at work.
I ended up getting audio from the Hesselberg brothers.
I heard. I did check it out. I was curious, so I did check it out.
Sober brothers.
The Sober brothers. Yes, that's not what they. I've heard that is not. Wog indeed, my friend. Wog indeed.
Team name for the Swedish team at LVO for the doubles event was Puke and Play.
No,
like one guy.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was Vomit Comment.
Oh yeah, Vomit Comment. That's what it was.
Because Jimmy couldn't play. He was under the table vomiting into a bucket.
We don't go hard all the time.
But when we do, it's like Sex Panther, yo.
Seriously. So today I wanted to talk about. I had a conversation off the podcast with some friends, and
how dare you?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. It's kind of strange.
This is obviously a lie. First of all, Alan, you don't have friends.
I don't have friends, and I don't have conversations off the podcast. I mean, it's just clearly a lie.
And you're also breaking your contract. You're not allowed to talk outside of the podcast.
There's actually an amendment in that contract. We worked through it. There's a bullet point there, bullet point 6 on page 15. Yeah. But anyways, bottom line is I got some feedback from some close friends that the game is changing a lot and it's hard to keep up with things, and I'd rather just do something else. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And I thought we can talk about it. And then I kind of realized that I guess a lot of people are talking about this right now. The amount of changes in 9th edition and the amount of new stratagems, new books, new units, like brand new units. I think for anyone who's been a historic 40K player, the whole idea of Primaris Marines is kind of like a new race of Marines. It's like all these new things. I still don't even know all their names. I call it the Melta guys, the Plasma guys. I call it the guys who you can't deep strike next to, the guys with the crazy bolters that do all kinds of different things.
I would disagree as long as they keep it not like they were doing before. I would like to see, and especially in the app. I'll get a quick bitch on the app. I would like to see everything that you have be included under just especially in the app. If I go to Dark Eldar, whatever, I don't want to have to right now they have all the Psychic Awakening books and that stuff.
I would really like you to not tap your desk. Just not tap your desk. That'd be great.
Ever again.
That'd be the best, because these headphones, terrible for me. But go ahead. You were talking about the app.
But as long as everything's under one, it's just easy to find and easy to do. That I don't like having to try to look for a rule and find out if it was in White Dwarf number 269. I don't want to look for it. If I go to my army and I say it's Dark Eldar, I want to be able to look.
Let's break it out like this first. Let's break it out like this first, and then we'll all tackle this in our own way, because I'd like to get your feedback. Let's break it out in 2 ways. And for you guys can't see me, so I have my hands up in the air. I have 1 way and 2 ways, so right hand and left hand.
I can see you.
Oh, you're looking at Facebook? Okay. So number one thing, right? How do you guys? Let's start here. How do you guys keep all of the information about your particular army list, the one that you're interested in, and if it's more than one, the ones that you're interested in, the models you have? How do you keep, I guess, learning and making sure you're moving forward with that list in comparison to the general meta? So I think let's start there first, because I think the majority of people are just focused on their army and their models. So let's not think like Brad Chester, like I do consulting for every army in the world. let's try to relate to the regular person. Let's try our best. What would your recommendation be? What would your recommendation be for someone who just wants to focus on the models they own? Maybe 2-3 factions tops, but keep it in line with the meta without having to know everything else. So how would you do that?
So I think I need to start with a question to this question. What's the difference between 8th and 9th? I mean,
I think 9th is easier to do
exactly the same. I don't see any difference.
I don't know.
No, I think it's more stuff. It's more stuff, Daniel. It's more releases quicker. I mean, maybe not quicker releases, but
it's not. I
Well,
mean, it's
okay.
like,
It's spammed with Psychic Awakening in 8th.
yeah, and it was like all shenanigans coming out, and with Psychic Awakening, and they have sort of the same FAQ release rate, and like except for the point changes, which sucks that they
Maybe
haven't
maybe
sort of
what it is
colored
then.
them.
So maybe what it is then, Daniel, is it's compounding. Maybe it's compounding. Maybe it's like 8th was tough. It was hard to keep up, but now it's not stopping. It keeps going, and now mission criteria is also changing. So now the secondary objectives for each codex are coming out as well, and I would say the grain of changes is more. So like what I mean by grain, I mean like like Death Guard is brand new book for Death Guard. It looks like Bellacor's coming out. That's probably gonna be a demon thing, and then we also have at the same time a Dark Eldar book coming out, a Dark Angels book coming out. It's like spread. Where 8th edition was kind of targeted. It was like, this month is this codex, and that's what you're going to get. And then like 2 months from now, you'll get this codex, and that's what you get. And it was kind of like spread out. Now we feel like we're getting a lot of information, I think, and the grain is kind of, I think, at a lower level. So it's more detailed. That's kind of what I would argue, but you do have a good point. 8th was hard to keep up with as well. So maybe it's also compounding.
Yeah,
If you weren't active, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
if you weren't already active,
yes. The problems now is also that you don't exactly know. You have the Vigilus books, and you have the other books, the Psychic Awakening books and stuff, and you don't exactly right now know what. I mean, but if you're not super active,
because Vigilus doesn't even work. Psychic Awakening doesn't happen except
exactly
for
what is valid right now for my stuff. So I can understand that.
Also, the FAQ update to the points where they didn't actually highlight the points, they just put it in as black text and went figure it out. That was kind of a kick in the dick. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So I think the question stands then. So how does a regular 40K player, regardless of the competitive level, like let's not factor that in right now. Let's just say I'm a dad. I have a job. I have a wife, I have a house, I have a mortgage, I mow my lawn, shovel my snow, and then I got to keep up with 40K. So, and I'm not someone who goes to the ETC. I don't travel to WTC. I'm not trying to be a world champion. I just like this game. How do I manage my 2 to 3 faction army and my models that I'm not changing, that I love, but like keep it somewhat competitive in the overall grand scheme of things? How do you do that? What's a good approach?
I'm not gonna lie. I look at what tournaments, but basically what's been winning tournaments. And first off, you got to know your army. Period. So that is just
so going back to one of our previous episodes, having that game plan. Is that what you're talking about first?
Yep. First off, you just need to know how to win. Period with your army, because it won't matter. But after that, you
need to know your strengths and weaknesses of your army.
Exactly, 100%. So, but after that, you have to at least be familiar. You don't have to know every army in and out, but like I would just check and see like what's been happening in tournaments. And obviously as we get more and more things happening, you'll see more of that. But just look and see what the top couple lists are, and see and look at your list and say what would I do. And a lot of times it's easy to do is go, Daniel's playing Harlequins and I'm playing some Marines, and then there's a lot of units that just share the same type of battlefield role. So if you don't know exactly what they do, just look to see what's doing what role, and that way you can play against it and know a little bit about it, even if you don't know a ton about it.
I would say that the changes are like, for me, example, I haven't cared about the point changes. It's some point changes. It didn't change the meta, and it didn't change the overall concept of what the same army was a few months ago or in 8th. So if you knew what it was before, I think you can make some assumptions that if I build my Harlequins this way, it's going to be good against Astra, even though some Astra shit got cheaper. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change how that army plays. So you can make some assumptions and then let bygones be bygones and just focus on the new stuff that comes out.
Okay. Yeah. Dave had a good comment on this. He basically just says he keeps on point. He's a big orc player by simply looking at what is the S tier armies and create lists that average, not the high end, and scatter the power level throughout the build. He basically stays with his core of trusted units, and he knows exactly how they play, no matter what. And then he can basically autopilot against things that he's not familiar with when he's playing against them. Basically, just knowing, like we were talking before, just though straight out using your, what you know how to do. If you know your army, you can play against other stuff. Yes, it's better to know what everything does, but you can take a second, you know what I mean? And tell you the truth, you're going to terms and stuff, man. Put it on your clock, because if you're comfortable with your army, you're going to play faster anyways. So ask your opponent, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid. Put it on your clock and like just literally ask your opponent a couple questions about the army before you play. I think is one of the easier.
So
Obviously,
that's a really good point that I wanted to bring up. So going off that, Brad, asking your opponent, how would you phrase that? Like, how would you do, like, what, how would you advise someone who's going to a tournament, doesn't know what they're playing against exactly? What would be your approach?
What's the key stratagems and the key shenanigans your army?
Yeah, just what are the big combos? What are you using for me? I'm literally not familiar. I really don't want to have everything sprung on me. Can you tell me a few things about your key stratagem combos? Basically a few of your interactions, so I know how they work, so I don't have to slow the game down later. Just make it as amiable as possible with that. I don't want to have to ask you during the game, exactly how and why something's working. Could you tell me a little bit about it? We're on my time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
would you ever recommend someone to be a little bit more specific? Like, obviously you can say that, but like, I was thinking like potentially giving someone like 5 general rules where you can say like, hey, what are your stratagems or abilities that do things out of sequence? That'd be good to know. Like anything that you have that has anything out of sequence, that'd be good to know. What are your stratagems, warlord traits, or relics that allow you to do things that are like forbidden by the normal rulebook? Like you can fall back and charge, you can advance and charge. Like what are some secret ones that you have from there? Another one would be like, what do you have that can make me fight last? I think that's a big one. So you understand kind of like how fight last works, And then I think the last 2, I think would be kind of like dependent on your matchup. But I would say it's really important to know like what does your opponent have that's doing damage, and what does your opponent have that's securing objectives? Like kind of figure that out on your own.
If you're going to go for like specifics on that, it's really important to ask your opponent what kind of things can you do to make your charges shorter. Basically, can you deep strike closer than 9 inches? Can you come in out of reserve close to 9 inches? Can you make your charges better than a standard 9? Can you basically can you do a 3d6 charge? Do you do +3 to your charge? Can you get closer to me?
Threat range.
Any of those things.
What's the advanced threat range in your units? Like what unit has the best threat range? Is there anything that can come within closer than 9 other than Gene Stealer Cult?
No, there's several of them. The Grey Knights can.
But they can't charge or do anything.
Custodes can though. Custodes can do the one off the Vexillus, and they can just be within 3 inches. They have to be within 6 inches of the Vexilla Praetor, and then they can be like right up on top of you.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And then the Necrons
can come closer.
have one that they can put Lich Guard like literally right up on top of you because it's worded that way. There's a couple things that can do that. I mean, and then there's other people that just have pluses to charge, be it via Blood Angels, whatever. You know what I mean? There's just multiple people that can get +1, +2, whatever.
Yeah, or even run and charge. Same thing. Threat range.
But I mean, we're talking about people that have played this game, obviously, since they're comparing it to how it was before, right?
Or I mean, it could also be someone who just started in 8th and like the pace just hasn't slowed down.
If you start in 9th, I can see sort of a uphill here because there is a lot of stuff to go through.
I don't know, man. I feel like starting now would be better, would be more beneficial because you're learning everything for the first time. You don't have any preconceived rules in your head. I always like think of a rule that hasn't existed in like 5 years. Like, isn't this a rule? No, it's not a rule. That was a rule in 5th.
You want a tank shock?
Yeah, dude, I would love tank shock needs to come back.
Tank shocking.
I don't know why tank shock's not.
Best rule ever.
Yeah.
But there's several things that you mean as far as asking before, but I think that like a couple of guys were talking about, basically just general, and also feel free to just give yours. Provide your army. Put your list out there. Combos and strats.
So outside of asking, then, what else could people do if they wanted to get more? If they wanted to keep even more information, like maybe a little closer to maybe the 3 of us, maybe closer to kind of understanding more about other factions.
I look through the top. Literally, just go through like local tournaments and stuff or local brand.
I mean, if you knew how they were in 8th, nothing has really changed. I mean. the, the strats are the same unless you get a new codex. So just stay on top of the new shit.
Yeah.
And then you can assume everyone can do the same shenanigans they could in 8th.
Well, in 8th, you couldn't have an aura that gave you Obsec. In 8th, you didn't have a psychic power that took away Obsec.
But all of these are new codexes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all new books on that.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, though. I think people are having a hard time keeping up with it.
If you're not familiar with those, people should be telling you these before the game. Anyway,
I love Daniel's approach. Daniel's approach to this whole topic is, why is this a problem? Just put in the time. Like just fucking read.
I'm the same on it because
just fucking read.
A lot. Both of us do. We both play a lot of different.
No, I know. I get it too. I get it too because the way I like to learn this is to make lists. I make lists for armies. I don't even have. Well, I have all the models, but I make army lists for like everything.
I was just about to say you have all models.
So I make army lists for all kinds of armies, even when I don't want to play them, even when I have no intention of making them. I'll make army lists. I'll talk to people about their army list and give them feedback and say, hey, this is what you can change. This is how you can tweak it. People will call me and we'll talk through some stuff. So that's kind of how I learn. I learn through doing, because I'll be 100% honest, and anybody who's ever played me before probably knows this. I pretty much don't read the codex too much. I kind of learn through osmosis. So that's why I get a whole bunch of rules wrong all the time.
I zoom in on all of that. But I think it's really important to literally just look at a couple tournaments that have happened and just look at those lists compared to your list, and you can see what, like the role. We had a whole show about Battlefield rules on that. You know what I mean? Just basically look for the stuff that you know how it does. That if you're playing Marines and you go, okay, this is their.
Yeah. I think if you really want to learn, though, Brad, I'd like your input on this, though. Instead of going online and finding someone else's list, we've talked about this in the past. I think designing your own army list is the best way to learn.
Oh, learn 100%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I'd rather take.
But there's a longer learning curve to it because then you pick the stuff, you build your army based on the stuff the sort of the stratagems around, and you're not looking into the other stuff with a sort of strange strats. What I'm trying to say, I understand this is a problem, but I mean, if you play Harlequins, they have a ton of stratagems, but they have like 5 core strats.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you need
to know. But that's true. But that's true for every book, right? Every book has a relic of some Stormbolter that does like -1 damage or whatever, -1 Ren 2 damage.
As you get more involved in your list too, but there's a couple that are just part of what you do every single game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're gonna basically spend CP on certain things every time. I know that I'm gonna spend CP on the same.
Yeah, you should be earmarking it. You should be earmarking your CP.
Have had the same tricks in 2 editions, in 8th and 9th, or at least since they got their Psychic Awakening or whatever White Dwarf or stuff it came from. Yeah. So it's not a new phenomenon or a new problem. What I'm saying is, if you knew those 5 stratagems before, you only need to keep up with the new shit. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. I can definitely see it as a problem, and if I started now, I started to teach my youngest brother to play, and we played 2 games. He's gonna have a rough time, because it's a lot of stuff to learn and pick up, and the codexes and strats and everything. And especially since they're not, it's not the same CP in the codex that he has as it actually is in the FAQ.
So then I'll rephrase. I'll rephrase the question, Daniel, because I want your input. I don't want you to fight the question. I want your actual input of what you think people should do, and I think you have good input because you just said you're trying to bring someone into the hobby. So let's take it. Yeah. Let's change the question, just because I'm curious what you would say. Let's say that you have no idea about 8th. The last edition you played in was 7th. And you played 6th, and you played 5th, and you played 4th, and you kind of tapered off after that. And now you want to get back in because you heard it's cool. How would you get back in now, considering 7th is the last edition you played? You remembered the Gladius army like yesterday, and war convocation army like yesterday. You have it on your shelf. It's got dust on it, and you haven't played since.
Yeah.
How do you get in? What do you do?
What I would do, I would.
Other than responding to me and saying, spend a lot of time.
Read up on stratagems and get test games against players with different armies. And then I would go to tournaments and realize I would get the shit hammered out of me, but I would learn. And then 100 game into this game, sort of the gist of it.
Boom. I kind of love that feedback, by the way. That's like, Daniel, you should get a shirt that says like, noodling with zero love, like just like direct, like no remorse.
But seriously, like
Daniel's like you suck, so just go suck for a while, and don't worry about sucking. What were you saying, Brad? Best way to learn?
But the thing is that in losing games, you learn so much. You know what I mean? As long as you're honest with it, like why you're, what mistakes you're making and stuff like that. Winning right away, you're not going to learn as much because you don't realize what's weak, what was better. It's so much better to just have a couple losses. You know what I mean? You learn so much more all the time. You just getting your head kicked in just makes it so you go, all right, back to the lab.
This whole thing from Brad just sounded like a rehearsed line, like he gives his clients, like, "Hey guys, we're back to the lab, guys. Let's get this going again."
It is always the same though.
That's a $5 line, man.
I know, right? Brought to you by Brad Chester.
$6.33, actually. Come on, let's get it good.
$4.16. Let's be real,
dude. Exactly, $4.16. It's a $4.16 here.
So all right. So I mean, I don't even know how to add to what Daniel said. I agree 100%. Just acknowledge that you don't know the game, and go play games, and you'll learn the game.
But the thing but if you want to stay up, the easiest way to stay up is find an army that you like and learn everything about that one army though before you do anything else.
Yeah.
If you want to keep having fun and you want to be, competitive
and what's a good army, by the way, Brad? You would know this. What's a good army for someone to start off with in that? Like, let's say they're open to any army. Marines are a very versatile army, and if you decide that you want to change to a different style of Marines, you already have those models typically. You know what I mean? Obviously, you might change.
Or you can pick an army that doesn't work in all phases, because that way you could sort of skip out learning some stuff if you wanna, like knights. Don't do knights, but
I was gonna say, if you want to skip out of phases, you might also lose though. Just play knights and Tau back to back and just be real bummed that you don't get all the phases.
This game's terrible.
No, but in theory, you could choose easier armies than Space Marines. Or no,
yeah, but my thing is that you could literally fall back on stuff because you just choose like your own color scheme. You know what I mean? So you can just go. I was playing Ultramarines and I didn't really like them, but I've still got all these models. So now I'm playing White Scars. I'm playing whatever. You know what I mean? And just play them as
and they're good.
You're not
missing. They're good.
That way you learn the models because it's the same models, and then you can just alternate. Yeah.
Right, and you can just learn and figure out. This is what I would rather play, but you're not out a bunch of money or time or whatever, and you're still learning. You know what I mean? I'd say that pick like a faction like that. You know what I mean? Do Marines, Chaos is a little different because there's so many things that have lots of synergies in them. So it's a harder army just to pick up and throw down. But as long as you start learning what an intercessor and an inceptor and whatever, you start to learn exactly what these units do. And even if you change your super traits and your stratagems, you already know at least what these model interactions are. So then you can keep basically adding to your what the library gets more books. See, the Black Library.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, Daniel, I think you nailed it. I think for anything else, we would say the same thing. It's like, I want to get good at basketball. We'll go shoot hoops. I want to get good at a video game. I want to get good at Call of Duty. Well, play Call of Duty. You got to get your coordination on key. It's like, why would you think you can get better at Warhammer 40K without playing? You just have to play.
And I mean, to be honest, you will get to a certain level without deep depth knowledge about everything, but if you want to get to the highest level, I'm sorry, you just have to put in the time.
Yep.
Reps are reps, man.
All right.
It does make a difference.
Well, we nailed this topic. I think we're done. Let's move over to WTC terrain. I know Brad wanted to talk about that, so kick us off, Brad.
I do. I'm very big on this. Props to the WTC because they're pretty much the only people putting out terrain.
And why
an FAQ, a book on it. Yeah. And I wanted to. Daniel is currently the czar of Sweden 40Ks, captain of the WTC team. What are your thoughts as far as the WTC rulings and tables? The tables are fairly heavy, which GW has pushed. You know what I mean? And recently, the WTC guys have actually gone to GW and talked to the creators and stuff and asked for a specific, hey, will you guys put out a more defined basically terrain examples.
Log into TTS and physically build the damn table. Send it to us.
I mean, just
So I'm doing this pod from
a pod.
WTC table.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. No, we only play on that. I'm 104 games in now. I think I really enjoy the terrain. It's really fun to play. I feel it punishes some armies. I don't mind that. I mean, if you know it up front, just don't bring that type of army. But I do feel it's very heavy, and it sometimes punishes some armies.
Punishes my Magnus Morty 3 Keepers a Secret.
No, but
it's still playable though.
Yeah, no, but yeah, some armies are a bit like shooting based armies are a little bit punished because there's a lot of big ruins and stuff. I don't mind that because no one really enjoys, Tau in a corner just shooting everything away. So I'm totally fine with that overall. I think they're super playable and they're easy to understand, and they've made a massive work with just making sure there's lines everywhere so everything can move. Knights can move on every table, and you can move vehicles, etc., on every table. So big props, to the guys that have put in all that work. I'm missing some terrain features. They're not super important, but I think since we have terrain routes, it would be cool to interact more types.
Will one of you guys post the link that I sent in our pod discussion messenger? Because I had said I'll stab you to one of the comments in here, and I have been banned from posting anything on Facebook for 24 hours. So apparently you cannot say I'll stab you in chat. So
that's not.
If you would throw up the terrain maps.
The terrain maps.
That is the link to the entire document.
I don't know where that is. We'll provide that later. So I'm not really sure where that is, unless Daniel wants to do it.
It's in the messenger. It's in our podcast discussions messenger.
I'm not gonna pause everything to do that right now, Brad. So,
I didn't know how you would.
I'm just like, no. Anyways,
Gary already put it up. I apologize. Gary just put it up. Thank you.
I think I owe Neil. I do owe Neil like a write up. We said we were gonna send him something, and I haven't done it. I've just been too busy. But I can do it this week. So, but yeah, no. I'd like to know, Daniel. You said there's some terrain elements that you're missing. What are you missing?
No, but so they're running. Since I've built the full terrain set for 3 tables soon, which is a lot of terrain, they're running big ruins without windows. They're 9 inches times 5 inches times, whatever it is, 9 times 9, and then 5 times 9, something. They look like this.
Yep. And are those obscuring?
Yep. And they don't have any windows. And then they're running.
How many of those? How many of those are in the tables?
For a full terrain set, you need to build 6 of those. Yeah. So the maximum you can have on any table is 6. But obviously, there's not 6 on all tables.
And several of them have 3 of those, like basically 1 in each deployment, and then one or 2 in the middle. As is a fairly common terrain feature of that. A lot of them have.
So what's the very lightest? The very lightest is going to be like 2 or 3 of those.
I think probably 2 of those, and then they have another ruin setup, which is a smaller ruin with windows. It's
not
5 times 9 times 5,
and that's not obscuring.
It's still obscuring, but it has windows, so you can't stand on the. You see through the windows if you're touching the area.
Okay, but if you're not touching the area, then you can't see.
Then it's still obscuring since it's more than 5 inches.
Okay, and are those all like light cover or any kind of cover as well, or just obscuring ruin walls?
They're covered. They have ruin.
Well, the thing is that they made the good ruling on it though. You're only in for light cover if you were basically underneath the shadow of the first floor.
Yeah. So they're done like this. So basically the area is the same as this part, the first floor.
Okay.
So if you're in there and touching it, you're getting it. Obviously, if you're up here as well, because you're in a room.
And also, yeah, if it has a window and you are in that area right there,
Then
You're
can
no
get
longer
shot.
obscuring.
then you can get shot.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You're no longer obscuring.
But that's the thing is if you want to take that light cover bonus,
Yeah.
and there are windows, you have to take that. And there's a couple semi-light terrain board. There's everything has some LOS, but like for instance, the table 1 setup, while it has blocking, it has long lines of fire that you can utilize.
But table 1 and table 2 are the open ones, right?
Yeah, I think it's table 1 and 2, or is it table 1 and 8? Either way, there's a couple that have basically long lines of fire. There's blocking, so there's obviously play. So there's no planet bowling ball really, but there is multiple tables that have
That's good.
long
bowling ball.
lines of fire.
What
And
other
a couple of
other
guys are
elements
talking
do they
right in
have?
chat. I would say something in chat, but again, I'm banned. Not annoyed at all at this. But basically, they're saying they've got it. I agree 100% that it makes the games more tactical and give basically more decision. Nothing is worse than playing on Planet Bowling Ball.
What's all the different types of cover though? So you said they have light cover. They have a bunch of obscuring walls. They have different heights,
they
2
have
different heights.
forests, which gives
They have a
dense cover.
lot
Heavy-
of
that's dense
They have
cover.
a lot of DT. They have craters and forests all over the place.
The craters are called vents, but it's basically basically forests without cover,
Okay.
without
It's dense cover.
Right?
No dense?
Yeah.
Do they have dense or no
I
dense?
don't think the vents, they don't have dense. They only have light cover.
Okay. Is
The
there heavy
vents,
cover?
Only
Yeah.
the forests have dense. The craters are basically what are the same. What they are, I think they have light cover and DT.
Okay. What about heavy cover?
No heavy cover.
No, I don't even think we have terrain with heavy cover right now.
Oh, that's
Then they
bad.
have-
Isn't that
then
where
they
you get
have
plus
ruined
1?
walls.
Isn't that where you get plus 1 in combat?
Plus
To
one,
hit?
it's plus one in combat, but there's
Yeah, that's
no
really
terrain
good.
that even has that right now.
Oh, they should definitely have that. That's like an awesome thing to
So
have.
that's sort of what I'm coming back to. Then they have double containers and single containers. They have forests. They have.
What are the containers? Are the containers just if you're within 3 inches you benefit, or how do those work? Are those
it's an
area effect?
obstacle with light cover.
Okay. It's an obstacle?
Yeah.
Well, an obstacle has to actually be between you and the fire. So you have to physically draw a line. So you have to be able to see over the crate. Oh wow, okay.
You know, a lot of people actually mess up. The thing is, like, for instance, if you want to shoot someone in a forest and not get the -1, you actually have to be in the forest. It doesn't matter if you're within 3 inches of something.
No. That rule only applies to obstacles. So you're correct.
That's what I'm saying. It only
Forests
applies
are
to
area
obstacles.
terrain.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I'm saying. If you want to get to no -1, you have to be in it shooting at someone.
Yep.
Only obstacles are within 3 inches.
Yeah.
No, you could be outside of the forest. I think you could be
You cannot.
outside of a forest with like a tank, and you could shoot
Nope.
around it.
You cannot.
You only pick
It's
one
lit-
point on your base, and you
It's
pick
any
all
point.
points on their
It's
base.
the
Any
full
point.
base. You need to draw a line of sight from your model to the full base of a model.
Correct.
Without touching the forest.
Correct. So if you have a tank, you can pick a corner of that tank to go like to the left of a forest. Does not draw a line of
But
sight.
it doesn't.
And
It
if
says
you-
any part of it. So basically,
No,
if you
it's not
can't
any
draw
part.
a-
It's not any part of your model. It's any part of the target model. It's
No,
all
it's
parts of the
full
target
part
model.
of the target model.
Correct. It's the full target model, but one line, 1 point
Yes.
on your model.
Yes. That's
So
correct.
you could have a tank outside of a forest that shoots something and has no -1, but when they shoot the tank back, it will have a -1. That's possible.
It does. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
If you're touching the forest, you never give away minus anyway. So
Yeah.
you never give away minus when you're in a
When
forest.
you're in it, it's when you're shooting at other people.
Well, you could be out of it too.
A lot
Is
of
what I'm
people
saying.
think that if you're within 3 inches of the forest, that you don't
Yeah.
get the -1. That only applies to barricades and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So if you're
that only
firing
applies
over
to
the forest, period, unless you're inside that area of terrain, you're getting a -1.
Unless you're inside the forest, you're getting a -1.
If
Only
you're shooting
only
at
when you're
someone that's
drawing
in that
only
forest.
when you're drawing a line of sight through the forest. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, we're
That's what I'm
just,
saying. But a lot of people think that I'm within 3 inches of this.
no.
of
You got to
this
be in
forest
it.
piece.
You got to be in
You
it.
have to be inside of it.
Yeah.
It only counts for barricades.
Yeah.
Within 3 inches.
That's
So
correct.
me
Yeah.
showing all these pieces of terrain, what I'm trying to say is There are terrain pieces with hard cover. There are some fuel pipes. There's some statues. There's rule for another other stuff.
Yeah, there should be
I love the
hardcover.
terrain setup, so
Hardcover should be
I'm
there.
not I'm not bitching about it. I like it. Not complaining at all. I'm just saying,
You're
since we
saying
have rules,
you're
I
saying
enjoy
it's
going to
awesome.
tournaments that utilize more of those rules.
Yeah, you're saying it's
I like-
awesome, and you like that they did it, and you just want to provide additional feedback. That's all. And Neil loves that. Neil's like super open to that
I'm a big fan of the way that they did it because of the fact that I hated the argument where people were playing with the old type of ruins that had the huge bases.
Yeah.
And GW doesn't make those, so they never provide rules for those. So we had so many arguments about what was in and out.
They did right. They did right because the rule is that if there's a ruin, we on an area terrain, the full base is obscure.
Yeah, that was like in 6th.
So they provided the rules for it. I don't understand why were some pieces very OP and you should probably not play with them. Yeah.
No. The problem was that a lot of people just had their ruins on big bases because it was easier to transport them. So the ruin itself was not that whole piece. The ruin was the ruin that's on.
I agree with Brad. Like if you have like a building and there's like a 2-inch lip in the front of the building for the base, and you have like a model on the corner of that lip, just touching its back base, and they're like lined up on the corner of the outside part, and you're shooting at them, and there's literally nothing in your way. Your model's fucking viewpoint of these enemy models is like literally perfect. It's clear as day, and they're getting a cover save. I always hated that in the game.
But right now, if you're doing the same in a forest, you get -1, so I don't see the difference.
Well, I like the idea of a forest because
the ruin a lot of times. What I was saying is like if the ruin, a lot of pieces are just on the big squares, just because that's how people kept, especially in big tournaments. That's how they just had them, so it was easier to basically transport them.
I'm not arguing it's the best way to play ruins. I'm arguing that Brad said there were no rules for it. There were definitely rules for it. It's just area, terrain, ruin.
But Brad wasn't a consultant back then. He wasn't a consultant back then. He didn't know those rules.
GW didn't come back with it because GW literally said, "Here's our ruins. They do not have big bases on them.
No, the way GW build their ruins are ruined walls because they don't have a base at all, so they don't have area terrain.
I know because the ruins
craters.
The WTC has the ruins. The ruins that have just the base of that. They don't have a big square base. They just have just with the ruins.
Games Workshop, they don't provide any base to their ruins, which would make me inclined to say it's ruined walls, not ruins, because they don't have a base, so it's not area.
Yeah, the only area terrain they make are craters and they're forests.
Yeah.
They both come on a base.
Yeah. So the ruins pieces themselves, I like the way that Gary does it. He said this before anybody did it. Gary was ahead of the WTC.
Yeah, he's got tape.
He basically
he
color coded it off on the bottom, so that's when you were considered to be in.
I know. For me, Daniel, if there's like a forest, like a make-believe circular forest or whatever shape it is, and there's a guy with his base just touching the forest, I can imagine there's like a tree in the way, But when there's a giant building and then he's like 2 inches out of the building touching like a random piece of like wood that has nothing to do with the building, I'm like, no, these shouldn't get covered.
You can't imagine there's a stone there.
No, there's no stones. No. Put a fucking stone there if there's
trees,
a stone.
Yes, there. Stones, no.
Yeah, trees are good. Stones, no. I can't do it.
Super big tree that is invisible.
That's why.
Small
That's why when I read the 9th edition book and they had obstacles and they were like, you have to actually draw a line of sight over it. I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. You could put like a small little like pipe on like I think even Frontline has like little terrain features that are like little pipes and stuff. I was like, oh, this is perfect. You shoot over it, they get whatever the benefits you want to call it. Oh my god, I just Brad Chestered.
I think the biggest,
on air.
The biggest props for the WTC terrain is that it's super playable. It's really nice to play with. It works. There's no hassle. There's no debate about bases and if you're in cover or not in cover. It's very
100%. But that's the thing is I feel that people should go towards this. This is kind of what I'm going to bring it up today because it makes the game, anytime you can have less discussions, less arguments, less anything in your games,
I want to argue.
Is so much better.
Screw you.
Except for Alan. He wants to tell you.
That dice was a 6. Go to hell.
Alan wants to stand there screaming like, "Didn't you see that imaginary tree, you bitch?"
I don't know.
The
Maybe
thing is all this stuff is clearly
maybe it's
marked,
Lord of the Rings.
You know exactly what it is, kind of thing.
Just good
and
at
I like
trees.
that just because I hate having more just ambiguity with what
I
don't know.
The
what
only
it is.
thing I would add though is I think you need to have at least. I would try. I mean, maybe this is overkill for most people, but I would try to have as many of the terrain elements as you can have. We've been begging for terrain rules for so long. Now we have all these variety of terrain rules. You should have them. You should have obstacles. You should have heavy. In my opinion, heavy terrain is one of the coolest terrain pieces ever because it's like, hey, my unit takes this middle of the board. Oh, you have some awesome unit that is either like a kamikaze missile, to kill me, or you have like some unit that's going to come from reserves to kill me. Oh, well, I have heavy terrain. So it's like +1 in combat is really good. And then if you can make them fight last, oof, things get really, really cool. So I really like stuff like that.
I love the defense, the either +1. I think that it's such a huge rule. It isn't used enough is the fact that you can either get +1 to Overwatch or +1 to hit in the combat.
Yeah, and I'd like to see more terrain. I don't know, maybe the Age of Sigmar player in me wants to see like some cooler stuff, but like I'd love to see like pluses to cast. I'd love to see a terrain piece that allows you to deny the witch as if you were a wizard. Well, not a wizard, but psyker. But I'd love to see that. I'd love to see things. I'd love to see like damned terrain, like terrain that like can kill you, like does mortal wounds on a 1. You roll a 1. Like that's a lot of Age of Sigmar stuff. But I used to like that terrain a lot. Back then, I think we had an entire book that came out with the dangerous the whatever,
the forest with the birds that attack you, razor wing flux or whatever it was called. I hate it.
I love that shit, dude. Do you know what I love the most? I love the most is back in the old day where we used to roll for jump pack units and for bikes and shit.
I don't know.
We used to roll a dice, and on a 1, it would just the model was removed. Oh my god, that was the best stuff.
There's only 2 things that happen every millennia: the forests get less dense, and the night gets brighter. That's the difference between 4th and 9th.
Yeah, what happened to Night Fight? Yeah, that's true. No, I kind of miss like some of that randomness too. I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit of it. Not too much, because I do agree that adding all the terrain elements into the game, and you come to your table and you identify kind of what the battlefield looks like, and you're like, oh well, this is how this terrain is played, and you know all the facings and you know how it's set. The role for deployment side is actually important, because right now when you go to events, if all the terrain is exactly the same and both sides are the same and they're trying to standardize everything, it's boring. But if you bring in the elements,
the only negative comment I would have on the WTC terrain is that choosing side doesn't matter because it's mirrored. Everything is.
There should be an advantage.
I'm so different than you guys with that, because I always would rather have an even symmetrical game.
Hell no.
Yeah.
No, it's not chess. The game is not chess.
You guys are different on that, but that's just my preference, because I like to have...
I think we have a scale here, Brad. I mean, I don't want razor wing flux and like booby traps in the forest.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
I don't want someone to dispel my psyche.
You want a little bit different.
I'm the guy that walks up to Brad at ETC, and he's like, hey, why are all 6 objectives on that side of the board? I'm like, because that's how we play. He's like, what if you don't get to pick the right side? I'm like, I'm going to get
also, yes, exactly. Moving your army to the opposite side is annoying. Losing your game on the deployment roll is annoying. Actually, Daniel doesn't want to have the ruin punch him in the dick.
I mean, so moving to the other side at big events doesn't usually happen. You usually just decide which terrain piece is the one you want, and you just kind of like shimmy the corners if you really need to, if you don't want to move.
I do not enjoy the imaginary tree turning out to be an ant that killed my mother. That would suck.
It's not an ant. It's Treebeard from Lord of the Rings. He just engulfs you. He just picks up your model and throws him in the air. He's just dead. No, I do think that there should be a difference between the sides. I really do. I don't understand why they don't do it. I mean, it's really simple too. In Age of Sigmar, terrain doesn't play a big role, but like when you do get the +1 to cast, or you get a damned terrain in a deployment zone, immediately you want the one you want, right? Or you want to avoid the one you don't want. So
I think, however, to make terrain too random,
no, it shouldn't be too random.
That only benefits the most experienced player. I know when I went to tournaments and there was no rules for terrain really. It was just like, Oh, so let's agree. Is this a ruin? Is this a ruin? Is this impasse? Is this impasse? And then you met someone and played demons, had to deep strike their entire army, and suddenly half of the table was impasse.
Impassable. This is impassable. This is impassable. This is
easy to argue for that.
time to roll that dice, buddy. Don't get a 1. I actually never wanted a 1.
The craziest boards I've seen are the player plays terrain. I was all for player plays terrain until I saw, unless you have exact rules for how to do it, I just watch people play Vital Intelligence and they put all of the terrain directly in a line going down the middle. It was just the wackiest boards I've ever seen.
Yeah, or you just take it all and put it to the side. I would just put all the terrain in the corner on one side of the board.
It depends on what army. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I guess we don't have any terrain. Time to shoot you. So, that's what we did with Guard that year at Adepticon. Just that was our strategy. Just put the terrain in the corners, like 4-4, 4-4-4. Every piece of terrain we have, just put it in the corner.
But I agree with Alan on the fact that there should be small differences. In table symmetrics.
A really good example.
Choosing table side should mean something.
Yeah, a really good example, Daniel, is the placement of that rune wall. So let's say, for example, one side has a rune wall that's open towards them but closed towards the opposite side, but it has a higher advantage in the board. So it's closer to mid-board or closer to your opponent's deployment zone. That would be, in my opinion, a very important thing to get, right? Because you want to put more pressure on them. So if you pick the other side of the board, if you have an L that favors the other side of the board more, that's pretty strong. Or favors the center more, that's pretty strong. And the other one's a little bit farther back, maybe even like 3 inches, 3-4 inches.
I just lose this roll every time, so I want them to be symmetrical.
3-4 inches, 3-4 inches can get the job done. So
I just auto drop this roll, so I'm just like, screw it, make them both the same. I'll lose anyways.
Yeah, no, definitely do not agree.
And to be fair, I super don't want to move my army after I've set my stuff down.
I don't even know. Do you even move your army in general? Like, I have this like vision of like you not carrying models at tournaments. They just somehow magically get to your table.
If Brit's there, she always brings it.
Oh, okay.
You have a Oompa Loompa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just envision Brad like walking like this, holding a Diet Dr. Pepper with his Ohio cap, and just like making eye contact with people. Like, hey, did you win? Yeah, I won. All right, cool. I won too.
Yeah. The classic,
just like walking.
Red wine and Dr. Pepper mix.
Yeah.
It's a cocktail.
It's called Zichester.
I mix them in my mouth.
Zichester.
Sorry guys for not responding to the chat as much today, but I'm banned. So.
Yeah, and I can't figure out why I can't see the chat anymore in OBS. I used to be able to see it on the right-hand side. Now it's gone. Makes me sad.
And I have Archipelago internet, so I'm not on Facebook. Meanwhile, I'm doing the pod.
Hey, you know what, Daniel? I give you a lot of shit on and off stream, but your internet's been primo for the last like four weeks now. You've been doing really good. You should call, the little Swedish dude riding a bicycle in your basement, making sure your main line runs. Be like, hey,
he's got Sven on a double time.
These calves of yours are fantastic.
Well, that might be the thing, Alan. The Sven riding the bicycle might just be getting in better shape with Daniel consistently yelling at him.
Yeah.
Dude, I need a little bit more.
Got whipped.
Killing.
Jesus, man. So yeah, no, I've been fairly impressed with your latest configuration.
I like it though, guys. If you haven't played the WTC, it's been put in chat. If you listen to it later, you can find it if you just search WTC terrain maps.
Which table, Brad, would you say is good for an event, or would you say an event should just have a random plethora of all those tables?
I would love to have an event run any of these tables because they're very fair as far as you're never screwed. You're never fucked if you're playing any of these tables. And they have places for you to play. Some are better than others, obviously, depending on what you're playing. But you never feel like I'm just standing here in the open and I can't do anything. You know what I mean? So you have tactics for everywhere. Tell you the truth, I would love to have. We've talked about before, like even if a tournament wants to go very homogenous, and have the same type of table. If you chose just 3 of these tables, and I would choose the light, the middle, and the heavy, and have 3 rows. And every 3 rows, has, all of that is that row. and then just keep going depending on obviously how many people you have. That would be fantastic because you'd get a different table as you play, but also you'd always be you'd have a fair table at every play. June 5th and 6th, nice. Gary's going to be using those tables on that. Pete's going to be running the Motor City Mayhem Death Match in the 20. Why do I always screw up the months? The 24th and 25th. That is going to be happening in effectively Southfield, Detroit, and he's going to be having they got a ton of new terrain for the the Death or Glory guys are printing this off.
You pulled the Brad.
And I just died real quick. But the thing is I love the fact that right now, people that are running, I feel like more and more people that are running tournaments are getting on board with having a real amount of terrain makes the game so much more fun. You don't have shitty moments of, oh, cool, there's absolutely nothing in my way. Great.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see if I can sign up for Gary's event. I think it's nearby. I think there was a post online where I think Gary went online and he was like, hey guys, local event for the Chicagoland area. It's this day, whatever. And then some people posted, they were like, hey, we're going to go to Bug Eater on that weekend. And Gary's like, local event, ... Like, cause Bug Eater's like in Nebraska. So it's like, that's not like a local event, So I saw that. I was like lurking on there and I'm like, I started laughing. I was like, that's pretty funny. But yeah, no, I'll see if I can make it to that event in our area. And I know, Brad, you have an event coming up too.
We have the Glass City at the end of the month, the 27th, 28th, and then I'll be doubling that up with the Motor City on the 24th and 25th of April. Glass City's at the 27th and 28th of March here at the end of the month. And I'm super excited, man. I'm going to go to basically back-to-back GTs. Things are starting.
You guys running events, and we're all dried out. I don't like this. I like
we set everything on fire real early.
Drooling when I went to
Daniel,
events all the time.
Daniel, what do you think? Should I last minute show up to Brad's event and just beat him?
Yes. You should always last minute show up to all Brad's event so we can tease him for never winning a tournament.
Brad, is the event in the Toledo game room, or is it overall, or is it just best general for this one?
It is both. There's going to be a War Master and best overall.
Okay.
And Pate's a large thing on that.
Would you say Pete? Who?
3 players from ITC major status. He's rocking and rolling. The Motor City's on sale right now, and they're starting to get it. And I think that we'll
he died again. When you do that cough, I'm always like, is it the last one?
Facebook banning me was
like
the last
I have a feeling I'm gonna be like 57 years old talking to my kids and be like, hey, Brad, he was this really good guy and he had this cough and I just miss it now. I just wish I could hear it one more time.
I got the black lung.
So how many minutes I've spent of my life editing that out of footage. Your cough is the sole reason why we just do a stream now and we don't do edited content. Like literally, like it's because I can't either I have to be a perfectionist on it or I have to not care. I can't go with there's no medium, right? That's why I text you and I'm like, hey, Gentleman Gaming, let's take over the world. And then next week I'm like, nah, who cares about 40K?
Well, I mean, here's the problem, Alan. Hold on a minute. Let me grab part of today's drugs. Hold on, there's so many more.
No, I'm excited, man. It sounds like events are going to be back up and running. Do you think, Brad, I know Adepticon got canceled. I don't know if we'll have any big events before July, August timeframe. I mean, hopefully Nova happens. I know ATC is canceled, and I'm betting that all the big events between now and July are still going to be canceled. But do you think we'll actually have a legitimate ITC champion this year?
I don't know, to tell you the truth, because of the fact that it'll skew so hard because all the tournaments that are run right now, even a lot of these ones that are going to be trying to be bigger, you know what I mean? A lot of states are still, at 50s and stuff like that, even when they're opening up. And so everything that happens at the end of the year will just have so much more weight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you'll have, if we get back up to the, 100, 128 type count, and then get into an LVO, it won't.
Yeah, if,
the
like
other
if
events will be-
LVO happens, LVO will shatter everything else.
Right, because it's going
Yeah.
to be worth so many points comparatively.
And it's so far in the future that like most likely the vaccine by then will be fairly well established. You
Yeah,
know?
the Atlantic City Open's going to happen in June. I don't know how big that is, though. I'm going to try to go to that also.
Is that for sure happening though? Do we know?
Yeah, they said that it's a go.
Okay.
A bunch of states are just saying, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
like I
Texas
wonder
straight up
what
just said, "We're
happens.
not even
I
wearing
wonder,
masks
you know,
anymore."
the
And Florida,
concern.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean the
Florida's been doing
concern
Florida
concern for sure is going to be like we open up too quickly and then like a new
Oh, yeah.
strand just like destroys everything and we do this again for a whole other year. That would suck. So
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
that would be terrible. That'd be terrible. So I don't want that for sure. But I kind of do really want to see you win the ITC. I think you deserve it. I think you put a lot of effort into it. I think you put a lot of work into it.
I was so prepared for winning
And-
the ITC at 2020. The first time I was focused on winning it, and then the world started to burn down.
You've been focused on winning it for a while. But I'd love for you to win it because I just want to see you win the ITC, and then people be like, "Who's Brad Chester exactly?" And they're like, "Oh, well, he won
Fuck
Nova
you.
once. He won some other. He won another event this one time. This is Brad Chester guy. How did he luck his way into the ITC? That's
Yeah,
weird.
who's this idiot?
I just want to see that happen. I just hope it does. I hope it's like someone makes a page with like a counter that just says number of time people
Ooh.
didn't know who Brad Chester was in 40K, and then just like endlessly rolled. There's a website that says like how much money like John what's the coach of the Raiders? What's his name again? Gruden. Yeah, there's like a website like is Gruden fired, and then it has like a counter of the money he's made since he's taken that job. I'm pretty sure it's isgrudenfired.com, something like that.
As a Raider fan, I'm well aware of how what's going on. We're gonna be good, I swear, someday.
All right, guys, that's it. So today we covered we answered the age-old question: how do you stay in the loop with 40K changes? And Daniel said,
I have one more thing for you we haven't
Put in
talked
the
about
work.
today.
Oh,
And
wait,
it's getting a little warmer. What's the first month that you think it will be warm enough for noodling?
"Oh my god,
In Sweden.
I'm so excited!" No, you have to come to America.
Well, you guys, we'll do. You got to come to America for pure noodling. Come on now.
Yeah, you got to come. We got to go
Yeah.
noodle. We got to have a noodle episode. It's gonna be like a real deal. I'm excited. I honestly, if I were to give you
anywhere in America,
no, it can't be anywhere. We have to come to with us. So if I'm gonna answer,
lakes
okay.
or rivers, or,
here you go, Brad.
because
honest-
it's like catfish. Or,
Good things come to those who have patience. So Brad, most likely, if I were to be realistic on when we could do this, and I really do actually want to do this, I say we go noodling 2022 ATC. So basically a year and a couple months from now, because 2021 ATC is already canceled. Daniel can come to Chicago. You can come to Chicago. We can all make an ATC team with the three of us plus two people. We drive down to Tennessee, and on the way, we go noodling.
We noodle?
We noodle.
Done. That's the team name, anyways. The
Yeah.
Noodlers.
The team name will be the noodling crew. Yeah, and we'll film the whole thing. We'll make an edited video where we have to edit out your cough 17,000 times. We'll put it up on YouTube. 56 people will watch it, and we'll be like, awesome. So yeah, no, I like that idea.
what do we expect Brad to get in like knee-high water?
Brad might drown. Brad might drown. We have to make sure the coach knows how to play Brad's army if we go before
You
ATC.
mean when you guys go at knee-high water, which is neck-high water for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When I'm treading water.
You can get like spig, you know.
Brad, we'll get you a very large phone book. We'll put it in the water. It'll float. You'll just.
I feel like I need some of those like little arm floaties. Come on, guys.
Oh, we're gonna be good. I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna make this happen. It's gonna be a big thing. We're gonna get sponsors for this one.
I'm gonna keep it international.
Yeah.
Love
Red hot. I'm gonna make you, Brad. You're gonna pour red hot on your fingers as you put it in the hole to grab the fish.
I just assume that's how you noodle, dude. But the fish know that red hot's the only way to go.
Oh man.
It's the shiz.
Water wings,
Oh.
exactly. That's what I need.
All right. So number one, you want to get good at 40K, play 40K. Number two, terrain is awesome. Use all the terrain, all the time. Forests kill you sometimes in Alan's world. And number three,
Alan's fucking tables.
noodling is a plan, and we're gonna do it.